Good evening. Meeting for the Winthrop Town Council for December 2nd, 2014 is now called to order. This meeting is being recorded and may be televised live. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Winthrop.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. We have a moment of silence this evening for Betty Vasquez, who was the fire chief's head clerk for many years. She's also the chairperson of the on the Council of Aging. She passed away this past weekend, and they are going to have a service, they're going to have a reception for Betty a week from today at 5:30 down at the Senior Center. In addition, Mary Ann Lounsbury, who was a co-founder of CASA back in 1997 and worked very diligently and very faithfully with CASA right up until her passing. She passed away, and her funeral was yesterday. Mary Kelly, who's the chairperson of the Conservation Commission and a retired school teacher, taught school there in Winthrop for many years, lost her daughter, Carolyn, this past week, and her funeral is tomorrow. So if we could have a moment of silence for those three women, I would appreciate it. May they all rest in peace and our condolences to their families. Thank you. Denise, would you call the roll, please?
Council Callow. Present. Council Sanford.
Here.
Council Boncory.
Here.
Council Terry. Council Boyajian.
Here.
Council Barone.
Present.
Council Mayo. Vice President Del Vento. President Gill.
Present.
Thank you.
A quorum is present. The minutes from the November 18th meeting, could I have a motion? As minutes as circulated? Motion. Motion by Vice President Del Vento.
Second.
Second by Councilor Boyajian. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. On that same evening, we had a joint council school committee meeting, and the minutes are circulated. Could I have a motion? Motion. Motion by Vice President Del Vento, seconded by Councilor Boyajian. Discussion on the motion. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. That same evening, we had an executive session. The minutes have been circulated, and could I have a motion to approve the minutes and release them? Motion. Motion by Vice President Del Vento, seconded by Councilor Boyajian.
Yeah, either way.
Councilor Sanford, any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. We have 6 public hearings tonight on financial matters. The first public hearing that I will open is that it's a motion by the town manager that the council transfer $37,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund 964 to fund the window replacement program at the police department or take any other action relative thereto. Opening the hearing, is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of the motion? Chief.
Yes, Hawaiian, thank you. Obviously, this has been on our agenda for the last couple of years, and we've been working hard through the bidding process. But as you know, the longer we wait, the higher the prices are going. So the money is necessary for economic spending of fuel in the building. It's porous at this point, and you can feel the air coming in, especially in these cold nights. So any consideration that you can give to this would be much appreciated.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak in favor of it?
I also feel as though that we should really consider that. They've been waiting a long time.
And I think is almost as important as the heat is the aesthetics.
We're going to take care of them. We don't want them to get sick.
No, I know.
Yeah, and I had a chance to walk through probably a year and a half ago with the chief, and we took a look at some different opportunities or problems that they have over there, I should say. And it's in need. Yeah, it's time.
Anybody else who would like to speak in favor of it from the public? Anybody speak in opposition to it from the public? Did you want to speak, or do you want to wait for the motion?
Not in opposition.
You want to wait for the motion to speak?
Yes.
Or would you? Okay. Seeing none, that hearing is closed, and we'll open up the next hearing that the town council transfer $25,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund 964 to fund the town records scanning project. Anybody would like to speak in favor of it? Mr. McKenna?
Yes, thank you. I have discussed this matter with the council in prior conversations. It's a project that is a long time in coming, and I think what it does is it helps us start the process of digitizing town vital and important documents. I think that today's day and age, where access to data has really changed and grown, and the expectations of the public have also changed with that, with technology. People want access to vital records, public records, frankly, and also other important documents to be more accessible and to, excuse me, shut my phone off. And, you know, this is really making the town, I think, much more consistent with the general course of the way other municipalities and general business is conducted today, where records need to be searchable, they need to be managed more effectively than just sitting in a vault somewhere. They need to be accessible so that people can use them in ways that are constructive, and we also need to preserve our records much more effectively than we are. And so in light of all of those things, we think it's important to embark on a new town record scanning enterprise, which would be over the course of a few years. This money would enable us to begin and hopefully seed the project for the first iteration. And we would be hiring a company that is certified through the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for managing of vital records, to come in to manage how to disable a record, scan it properly, and then put it back in its proper form, protected, and then capable for indefinite storage. And so that's really something that we need a professional to do. And so while we will have a two-tiered process, one where vital records will be handled by a licensed authority to do those things, and our important documents will be handled by staff dedicated to scanning things and keeping proper record of what's been done, and helping all departments better manage their records. And so I see this as really building in a whole new culture in the way we do our business in town, where we think every time we touch a piece of paper, we should be thinking about how are we going to retain it, how are we going to store it, how are we going to have it accessible to both our use and the public's use. So it's really developing a whole set of guidelines along with it that we're going to have to adopt. And so this is the first run at this. We put it in our capital plan of last year, but we couldn't fund it due to expense of our fiscal 15 budget. So it was left off as still a needed item, but unfunded item. And so we're bringing it back to be reconsidered by the council.
So it makes, not only makes the records more readily accessible, it also preserves them and gives more security to the records.
Yes.
For permanent. Is there anybody else? Chief?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you need to bring in a company for this. The bench that the clerk's office has is very small, and to do this in-house is just impractical. But as the town manager said, it is time to do it. You know, this is something I think he had on his list probably 3.5 years ago. And I think as the time, every year it gets older and older on his list, but also we're falling that much farther behind other communities. And it would be a great assistance to the clerk's office, and I think they need the assistance to be able to look up things quickly, and also let the people know where it is as quickly as they look it up. So, thank you.
Chief. Anybody else want to speak in favor? Yeah,
I'm in favor as well. I think we should gear up all our records to the current, the way everyone else has it now.
sounds good. Anyone opposed? Want to speak? If not, that hearing is closed. Move on to the next one. By the town manager, the town transfer $43,000 from free cash to fund the town hall records room construction and other building improvements, carpeting, painting, and furniture, or take any other action relative thereto. On this hearing, is there anyone that'd like to be heard?
Yes, thank you. Consistent with my last comments, we need to create space for proper storage of documents. We're really taking a wholesale look at the level beneath this floor that we're on and looking at how to better manage our space in the building so we can operate more effectively, store more than we are currently storing, and do things more appropriately in terms of condition within those rooms. There's necessary improvements that need to be made in particular areas where we're seeing some dampness and some other issues where we want to make sure that if we're going to use these rooms more effectively, then we need to improve them, from a moisture standpoint. As well, we're doing some things to upgrade the MIS office, and to bring that up to a more professional standard. We're looking at putting some minor appurtenances to the first level as well, and the meeting room that we've built out now, we want to finish that off and complete that project, and do some minor upgrades to some other offices. But all told, most of this will be handled by in-house staff during the winter months, but we do have some items we need to purchase, and we need to hire some contractors to do some cutting of major, what do they call that, the bars and the cell blocks. Yeah, we're going in there and really opening that area up, and that takes a contractor to come in and do that.
Any further positive on this issue? No? Does anybody want to speak in opposition to it? If not, we'll close that hearing and move on to the town manager's next motion, that the town council transfer $60,000 from Capital Stabilization Fund 964 to fund the restoration or replacement of the town cupola. Anybody want to speak in favor of that? Mr. McKenna?
Yes, we did have Rich Safuni adopt this as a priority project for the winter months. He met with folks even as today, in fact, who have come out and assessed the need for de-leading of the cupola, and they're preparing a quote for the town. We believe that the project will be in and around the $60,000 figure, depending upon what we want to do to, as we improve the cupola, depending on what we use for paint quality and some dressing of that cupola. The de-leading would cost in the neighborhood of $25,000. The staging would be an expense, and while the staging's up, we would hire a contractor to come in and repair and paint the cupola and polish the copper. It's come to our attention, though, as we progress in this agenda, and we receive a report from the Finance Subcommittee, that we are concerned with the 9C cuts and the prospect of that. And so, in light of that, this was one project that we felt could be put to the summer months, and anticipate, with good reason, I think, and as the recommendation from the Finance Subcommittee will report, that we should be conservative in terms of our anticipated cuts, and reserve some funding in light of that. And so this would be one of two projects we would put on a delay for the summer months. And so, despite the I know the strong feelings of the council, and I share those feelings, but I think the better part of valor here is to protect, to keep in mind the financial issues that may come around in January, and we want to be conservative in our estimates of what the cuts may bring. And so I think it's important that we not spend all the dollars that we have available, and reserve a proper amount. And so I just wanted to mention that this is one project that may be delayed.
As you know, that's a priority of mine. Again, every time I drive by, my eyes go up to the cupola. And it looked really bad until the Methodist Church put their new one on. Now it looks really, really, really bad. So I hope that it doesn't just get lost.
We'll still be studying it, and we'll still be collecting the necessary information for the project.
I understand. Oh, anybody have any comments in opposition? Rich?
Not opposition.
Oh, in favor of?
I guess more of, I guess, are we talking later about the 9C cuts? Or you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, I can wait till then.
Okay, anyone to speak in opposition? Not, that hearing's closed, and we'll move on to the motion by the town manager to move that he moves that the town council transfer $80,000 from capital stabilization fund 964 to fund 2 new DPW W3 utility trucks, or take any action relative thereto.
Yes, thank you. As it's been pointed out to the council through the capital plan process, the DPW certainly needs to stay on course with its equipment replacement, and it's necessary to have the available vehicle muscle to handle the snow and all of the tasks that the DPW performs for the community. That said, we too are suggesting that one truck be delayed for the summer months to be acquired, again, out of abundance of caution for the 9C cuts as well. So we're proposing that one truck be purchased now, with the intention of proposing that the second truck be purchased should funds be available in the near course.
So we're going to look at it again in the summer, basically?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any, yeah, did you want to comment?
No, one thing we did have at the finance meeting last night with these items is, we're saying something, we're looking at, the spring, and see how the year starts shaping up before the end of the fiscal year. We're being very conservative with, our plan, as we're going to discuss the 9C cut potential impacts in a few moments, but the intent is there to get the two of them, hopefully sooner rather than later, but we'll get the one and see how the next few months go.
Any further input on, yes, Steve?
Again, I do appreciate all the work the council, the support of the council and the manager with trying to get us newer vehicles. Again, the average age of the vehicles is still 17 years old plus. These two vehicles are early 90s. They actually were housed at one time in the old water department where the marketplace is. So that kind of gives you a reflection of the age of these vehicles. I do hope I can get through the winter with the two vehicles. Replacing one is a huge help. Understanding the 9C, I do get it, but if there's any money there to do the both of them, there is certainly a need for it.
Mr. McKenna, we would be purchasing one now, so we're looking for one, at least one of the two we'll have available for this winter.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Happy 80, right? Yes, good.
So, if they
Councilman.
run,
One more thing.
Yeah,
Looking into the vehicles, there is a 16-week lead time on these vehicles.
okay.
It's probably, at this point, I'm probably not seeing them until spring anyways.
Oh, Councilman Mail?
well, if you're not seeing them until springtime, we keep my mouth shut and we'll buy it in the springtime when we need it, so.
Any further discussion either way on this item? If not, we'll close that hearing and move on to the last one, which is from the town council manager, from the town manager, that I move that the council transfer $42,500 from the capital stabilization fund 964 to fund playground equipment at Coughlin Playground, or take any action relative thereto.
Yes, this is essentially our match for the improvements at Coughlin Park. We, in the interest of really expediting that project and getting it done, primarily due to the fact that there was a short window given to us once we received the grant from the state. They gave us a window of only a few months to get the project done. So we had to use internal resources from the DPW to finish the project. We do have to propose a grant match for this, and so this is This is essentially what this is you know, the replacement of funds that were taken out of the DPW budget to acquire the playground equipment at Coughlin Park.
Director Callen, did you want to comment on it? You also, okay.
That's accurate.
Any other comment? If not,
That's all done now?
It is.
Tomorrow,
Yeah.
is there like a ribbon cutting?
Tomorrow.
As part of my report, I'm going to mention that, yep.
if there is no further input on that one, we'll close that public hearing. Thank you. And move on to public comment. Seeing none. Correspondence, there is none. Committee reports, Councilor Valento, Vice President Del Vento.
Second, and I'll pull that up. The Finance Committee met last night, and we opened at 6:30. Councilor Lettieri, Councilor Sanford President, Councilor Mail, Town Manager McKenna, and CFO Tim Gordon were also present. We jumbled the agenda around a little and had a good discussion on the 9C cut potential, the impact to the town, which I think we're going to talk about later. We went over all the items that were presented that had hearings tonight, as well as some smaller items on the agenda, and we concurred with the moving of all of them forward with the amendment to the vehicle purchase to one vehicle at $40,000, the withdrawal and holding of the town cupola funding, as well as the $5,000 from free cash for the high school gym and rink was also withdrawn. So we have those tonight. All the other actions were moved forward with a positive action for the council tonight.
Thank you, Councilor. Any questions for the Finance Committee? If not, are there any other committee reports? Moving on to Town Manager.
Oh, yes, good evening. Just to carry the conversation forward on the update on 9C cuts. We've been, and Tim, I appreciate his extra assistance on this in watching what has been discussed on Beacon Hill and what we are getting reports on from the MMA. You know, it remains to be seen at some levels what the final 9C cuts will be, if they are to be at all enacted. Remember that there are two sort of prongs of authority on 9C cuts. One, our original jurisdiction of the governor, and the other are, in some cases, such as general unrestricted aid and Chapter 70 funding, for example, must be authorized from the legislature to allow the governor to make those cuts. So there are some parts of the administrative budget that he has direct authority over and can make cuts in an interim measure. There are some areas that he cannot and must get a legislative authority to do so. I understand Governor Patrick has asked for that authority from the legislature. We heard from Speaker DeLeo that he has, I think, very appropriately responded unsupportive of cutting local aid at this point, and suggesting that that should be something that is handled by Governor-elect Baker when he takes office. And so, but that doesn't mean that we're still out of the woods. There are a number of areas that still remain concerning to us, and they touch upon areas where their direct funding from certain administrative aspects of government to Winthrop in areas such as grants, areas such as direct funding that are on our cherry sheet, for example, that such as library funds, veterans funding, a number of areas that still remain subject to Governor Patrick's cutting. And so we're watching that carefully. We did get an iteration from the State House that mentions a number of areas that to watch, and so we're taking an analysis of that. And Tim did an analysis at this point as to what he considers to be our exposure today on where those cuts stand, and I'll ask Tim to report on that.
Sure, yeah, thanks. So if you remember when the governor first announced his cuts, it was $65 million statewide that they were looking to cut. Of that, 40 million were these 9C cuts that, as Jim mentioned, he has the authority to do on his own. And 25 million was the unrestricted general government aid, the local aid number. That 25 million is the number that the legislature has been very clear that they will not support a cut, and that will require legislative approval. So I think the risk at this point in time is low. However, that $25 million cut that was proposed was the difference between what cities and towns received in fiscal year 14 to 15. So for the town of Winthrop, that's $100,000. So that's sort of what we used as a benchmark for looking at some of the motions and how we wanted to potentially hedge against that and cover that exposure, at least until we see how the dust settles with the new governor and over the next few months. On the 40 million 9C cuts, as Jim mentioned, there's a long report that we've distributed out to department heads to see what kind of exposure we might have. Most of those areas were 1.5% cuts to existing funding for those that do apply. So it's not a huge number potentially, but all of this is proposed. So we don't know what tomorrow will bring. This could all change in the short run. So
And assuming that, if there are no cuts in other areas of aid, or, such that the legislature has advised, then how does that impact the other side of the ledger in terms of these cuts could be deeper in effect, or at some point. So we have to watch it carefully, but that's why we're recommending that we take a go-slow approach on some of our funding requests and monitor things more carefully, and as I said, out of abundance of caution, make sure that we have retained reserves available to plug a hole should it arise.
Did I hear correctly that if the 25 million is cut, that then our local aid will be level funded? Is that what you said? But if it goes in, then our local aid would go up, what we project?
If those 25 million went into effect as proposed, it would reduce our local aid by $100,000.
So it would not be level funded?
It would be level funded from fiscal year 14.
That's okay, that's from 14.
Which would be $100,000 less than what we got in fiscal year 15.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Council.
So in this particular scenario, we have $100,000 exposure on local aid, which is pure top line money. So then, what do you think your exposure could be for bad winter projected out in terms of energy? Because we're fixed at our electric rate, or at least, 65% of our electric rate is fixed?
Not yet. Not until that goes into effect.
When will that happen?
In the spring.
In the
So we're
spring. So we
exposed
missed
this
that,
year.
so we're exposed this year.
To the national grid market rate.
So, given the therm capacity and the added cost based on last year, are we looking at 150 grand?
Well, if you put both energy and snow together,
Well, energy and then snow afterwards.
it could be anywhere from, a bad year for snow was 150 over, as we've experienced.
And we put 80 out though already.
We're increasing our
Right.
our allowance.
So we have
there
$70,000 exposure
for on
there.
snow, and the bad year we had on snow was 150 as a end of year, deficit.
Oh, okay.
Energy, we experienced this year about a $90,000 expense, was it?
It's a tough thing to compare, because where we went from, if we were still with Sprague, we could potentially estimate out what that cost would be.
Yeah.
But now that we're back with National Grid, and we won't be subject to those
OFA charges. But we'll be subject to the rate change, if that rate change goes through.
What I'm trying to get at is, are we 300 grand exposure on the revenue side? Between the cuts here and that, I mean, we talking 300 grand?
Worst case, a lot of our expense on snow is both equipment and fuel and labor, and so fuel's come down a little bit on that side.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a crapshoot, unfortunately, but I think, what we're looking at in a worst-case scenario, would probably be in the neighborhood of 200,000, I think, if both energy and snow were to hit hard.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions on the 9C cuts?
So,
Yes,
yeah,
Tom?
oh, sorry, go ahead.
And one thing that we did discuss last night with the cuts, and where I was trying to hold a few little things back, is we do, I don't want to say we have a buffer, but we are being very, very cautious about expending, or about allocating all our available funds, so that we do have, we're holding a little bit of a buffer that theoretically could cover all those costs if that was come to fruition, including the 9C cuts. So, it's going to see how we get through February, March. We'll probably have to take a little closer look to see where first half of the winter season puts us. But we're being very conservative in holding some money to hedge our bets against energy and snow.
So I guess I wanted an opinion on, and we've talked about it a little bit before, why do we have to sit back and just take it? What is it that we can do to advocate for, to put pressure on the legislature and the governor to, to consider us towns? Because, I'm concerned because you're hearing all these talks now about the legislature voting a huge increase in their salaries that will make an increase in our state budget for their retirement as well. And they're more, I'm concerned that they're, dumping on the towns again now that it's after the election. How do we advocate to say this is, a little bit too much for us?
I think there were two good indicators out there. One is Speaker DeLeo, who came out very aggressively in favor of communities right when he got the rule.
Right.
That was the intent of the governor. And number two, Governor-elect Baker has run on the proposition of protecting local cities and towns. And I think it would be completely out of character for him to do anything otherwise. I would say that, it's been clear to me that the issue, at the state level at least, is not so much a revenue shortfall, it's an expenditure problem. That they overspent in a couple of very key areas, one of them in healthcare. $175 million in unanticipated expense, and that they need to make up. And to couch this as revenue shortfalls is really, and go to revenue adjustments to make up for it, is, I think, a mixed message. Because, they need to look at their own expenditure
the
issues
expense for
and
the Affordable Care Act
and fix those problems.
Any other comments on the 9C? If not,
Yes. Continuing on, as was mentioned, we're very pleased to announce the completion of Coughlin Park with the support of the council and the DPW really taking that on as a primary project this fall. When I heard that a number of folks came in on their own time at the DPW, and even some folks who have gone on to other jobs in other communities came back just to participate in the final touches of that park, really, I think, speaks not only well of the department, but well of this community in terms of, the pride it's now taking in its parks and its facilities, and we're just thrilled. And the leadership of Steve Calla and really, and Sean Driscoll in taking this project from a very difficult place of trying to figure out what best to do there to winning over the community and getting and the Parks Committee playing a very key role. We're really thrilled. This really rounds out our complete, remake of all of our parks. Coughlin, we saved for last because it was the largest project. I have to say, if I could rename it, though, I would rename it DeLeo Park, simply because Speaker DeLeo came through for this community and was able to get us a grant of $200,000 to improve this park. And so it really shines and shows a big difference. And I'm thrilled for the residents of the town, the residents of the Point, and everyone to go down and join us tomorrow at 11 o'clock when we have our ribbon cutting and our celebration. It's important that we get together and recognize the effort that we make in investing in ourselves and everyone who had a part in this. So I hope you'll find a time to come down, and in the public, certainly we'd like to see everyone down there if we can get them to join us to christen the park and really see what a nice job everyone has done, from the contractor to the DPW and to everyone involved.
Mr. Manager?
Yes.
I just want to let you know, tomorrow, I'm going to try to catch you get there, but I'm in the middle of coordinating an Inspector General's audit at work, so it's kind of, maybe a little difficult for me, but I'll be there in spirit.
Okay, I'll send you regards. Councilor.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So, we had talked about having all of the buildings have their own line item for maintenance next year. Are we gonna do that for all the parks?
Yes. We've discussed that and put some funds aside to make sure that we can maintain these parks.
And just as long as, not on the park, but can I just ask, you should be into the meters in the house type of stuff. Is that going as well as you expected?
Yeah, it's going good.
I got a new one last week.
I got mine.
Yeah, I was just curious. I was just, how we're
Looking
on
for an update
schedule
on that?
and, yeah.
All right, let me defer to Steve and give us an update on
Sorry.
the Reed project.
No, that's fine. Still, our primary focus is deploying the RF modules, which is that white box that you see on the side of the houses. What that does is that links us up to the fixed network, so that we can get the radio read, the actual read right back to the computer. We're probably a little bit more than halfway through the town on the modules. And we have installed, behind the modules, we got 2 teams out there, about 800 or 900 actual meters are in place. So half the town's being ready for the fixed system, and we're following up behind with the meters. It's going well.
Great, good.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
Mr. Manager?
Yes. I'll ask for a brief report from the CFO.
Can I just back up to the parks
Yes.
for a minute? I thought you were going to go on to the first annual turkey trot.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. So thanks
Go
for
ahead.
reminding me. I just wanted to mention and congratulate the Parks Committee for their first annual turkey trot that I understand really circumnavigated each of the parks in town. And I hear it went very well. I wasn't here physically, but I heard it went very well.
It did, and I'll jump in on that. And I have to say that the Parks Committee has produced beyond all expectations and all dreams as when it was put into place. But it somehow sparked with the enthusiasm of Steve, the enthusiasm of Sean Driscoll and his group, and Paul O'Donnell with Steve, and the whole thing. I think the parks, what they've done is just phenomenal with the coming together, the enthusiasm, the DPW guys putting up the buildings that they've put up, and the neighbors, and then coming into Coughlin Park, being able to do much more than we ever expected to be able to do there. And now seeing that we're so far ahead that the Pond Street Park is already done, and the Parks Committee is not ready to give up. At their turkey trot the other day I had no idea what it was going to be. But I went down there, and again, the level of enthusiasm, it was cold. It was very cold that day. They opened up the gym. Sean and his group and the Parks Committee got people registered, got their fees, distributed the T-shirts, and then off they went. But they are committed. They don't think their work is done. They, even though we theoretically have finished the last park, their next move is to be maintenance, and they're very aware that maintenance needs to be done. But again, for Steve and everybody that's been involved, it's just phenomenal the way this whole thing pulled together under your direction as well, Mr. Manager. So I appreciate that. I had to say something about it because it's one of my soft spots too.
I just to add one comment. If you were to take a measure of an urban community and to see the way the parks now have all come together. Crest Ave, let's not forget that we negotiated with DCR for some in-kind due to the impact of the trucks, replacement of that park, and you see how wonderful that's coming out. And then you look at the work that resulted in Ingleside, that still needs some more improvement there, but we're working on that. And that was a generational problem down there with the flooding, and look how it's working. And now, of course, PICO and Dawes and now Coughlin. It really speaks so well of this community. And I mean, I think that right now we're getting calls from other communities that have heard about how well these parks look and have come out and taken a visit of them to see how parks should be done. So that just says, it speaks success of this community and what we can do together when we really put our energy towards it. We have great staff, we have great enthusiastic residents who have participated in it, and we'll keep doing it more. We got to channel that energy now into other things. Don't worry.
It's still okay to contribute to their fundraisers as well.
We'll find more for them to do.
Yeah, well, exactly. The fundraisings are a big part. There's still a lot of work to do. We got 3 parks that still have the engineered wood surface that we would like to eventually get those up to the rubberized surface. The maintenance, so there's still gonna be a big focus on the parks. We're not quite done yet, but we've made strides.
But, also one that wasn't particularly a park project, but Hannaford Park looks wonderful too, and I know that you guys got up there and cleaned that
Up there as well.
Yeah.
It is coming.
Thank you again, Mr. Manning.
Yes, I'd like to refer now to the CFO and to give a brief report on something we sent out to the council last week, which was the Abrams report on the shared expense costing with our enterprise funds.
Okay, thank you. So you got the report, it's a 4-page report, and it covers all of the allocable costs to the enterprise funds, and this includes indirect costs, which we talk a lot about. These are costs that can't clearly be traceable to a particular department, things such as management, IT, HR, finance, all of these functions that contribute and that the enterprise funds benefit from are areas that are put into that indirect cost pool. There's also direct costs that are incurred in the general fund that are measurable and traceable. Things like health insurance, retirement, other insurance, vehicle fuel. So the study covers both the indirect costs and these direct costs that are allocated. And the results of the study are on page 4 of the report, and it identifies the direct costs that are allocable and the indirect costs allocable to the enterprise funds based on the analysis. So I think the question is, how do these results compare to what we are currently charging? So let's first talk about the indirect cost rate. The indirect cost, the study results are less than what we are currently charging for water and sewer. $25,000 less for sewer and $38,000 less for water. The direct costs, which include health insurance, retirement, other insurance, and vehicle fuel, the study results are higher than what we are currently charging for these costs. $55,000 higher for sewer and $40,000 higher for water. So overall, if you look at both water, sewer combined for direct and indirect cost, the study results for the water and sewer are $33,500 greater than what we're currently charging. So that's currently, if you throw the health insurance, retirement, all these direct costs that we allocate, along with the indirect cost, we're currently charging $696,000 for water and sewer. And this study, the results of this study suggest that it should be $730,000. So
Where is that?
page 4 of the report.
I'm on the report.
Page 4 is the table here.
It doesn't see what you're charging.
I kind of did this is the report, I'm giving you.
I don't understand the numbers here, I'm blind.
Okay, so I'll walk through these numbers. So
Sorry.
if you look at the table on page 4, we have the direct costs, the health insurance, retirement, other insurance, and the vehicle fuel.
So the $113,000 is the direct cost for health insurance to the sewer fund?
That's correct. That's based on actual premium costs paid by the town for the employees in the sewer fund that are working directly for the sewer. Retirement, it's a direct charge, but it's an estimate based on the number of employees and salaries. We use the same methodology we used for the the study we did with the schools when we were allocating costs. And that methodology came directly from the OPEB report that was done for us, that we paid a consultant to do, that was required a year ago on the health insurance and retirement costs. So those are pretty solid methodologies. The other insurance there, the $30,000 for sewer and the $33,000 for water, that comes directly from Maya. They calculate by department the burden of insurance, so their methodology is fairly sophisticated. And then the vehicle fuel is based on actual meter readings that are received by the DPW on the different vehicles. So those are the direct costs that are being charged to the enterprise funds. The next line are the indirect costs. That's the estimates based on this study, and it's a combination of taking a percentage of direct costs in some instances, and they go into detail on page 3. In some instances, it's number of employees for HR. So depending on what the function is, the methodology of allocating the cost is a little different. For some, it was based on interviews with the town manager and others regarding how much time they spend on the different enterprise funds. So that's the methodology that the Abrams Group used in coming up with the indirect cost rate. So, however, independent of that, I also did a separate analysis, and I used the U.S. Department of Labor guidelines for indirect costs, which are published in most federal agencies publish them because they give out so much grant money and they require it of their grant recipients.
Is that a different methodology than Abrams?
It is. It was a different methodology, yeah. Basically took, they call it the simplified model, which the federal government allows for, I think their threshold is $100 million organizations. But so basically you identify the full total cost pool, indirect cost pool, you identify your base, and you calculate a rate based on that. So when I did the results of my analysis were within 15% of the Abrams Group's calculation, so which was pretty close to where we're at. So I guess, you know, any indirect cost rate that you calculate, it's based on, the goal is to base it on reasonable estimates. It's not a perfect science by any stretch. But I think the results of this study provide us with good, reliable data to use in the spring or in the winter, when we turn to the development of the fiscal year 16 budget. And we'll have to figure out how much this will inform that budget process. If you look off to the right, when you get past water and sewer, you're looking at harbor, rink, and rec. There are numbers there that are being identified for allocation for a burden that those enterprise funds are generating that currently aren't charged. So I think that will be a discussion that we should probably incorporate into the FY16 budget process. I don't know what the answer is right now to that, but.
Council, yes,
So to go back to what you were saying, that their total estimate from the Abrams, you know, with the, I guess, you know, with within percentages, and you said your calculations were under-reporting it, or under?
Mine were 15.
Or what we're charging, you said?
What we're currently charging for the combination of direct and indirect, we're charging for water and sewer $696,000.
So for me, I'm pretty simple. Based on what you know from this report and what you had before, what would you do different, or what would you think? What should you take from this?
Well, on the water side, actually, the numbers line up to within $1,000. So the Abrams report came up with total allocation of $318,000, which is the total at the bottom of the second column there. And currently, we are charging $317,000. So can't get much closer than that. On the sewer side, this report shows $411,000, and we are currently charging just shy of $380,000. So that's the $30,000 differential.
But again, theirs is still an estimate, correct? of
Yep,
things?
this is still an estimate. What we don't know is, we don't really have the background to figure out what went into the original estimates and the methodology that was used to give us what we're using. If you recall, back a year ago when we talked about the budget, we were comfortable that the numbers were relatively low and that we were within the range, but we really didn't know what the methodology is. So when I look at the fact that the indirect cost rate in the study is lower than what we're charging, it could be because the rate that was calculated a few years back might have included insurances and fuel that we pulled out of the indirect and charge it direct, which is what you should always do. If you can charge it direct, you charge it direct as opposed to indirect. It's just more reliable. It means that you're able to trace it.
Mr. McKenna?
I think the takeaway from this report is that, you know, whoever set up originally the enterprise funds probably gave a little discount, but did some methodology, and clearly, you know, the funds have not been overcharging this community for direct or indirect expense. And we have two processes, one internal and one now external, to prove the point. That, in fact, you know, while we sort of labor over, you know, water rates and sewer rates, and we should. You know,
Next November, that'll come out.
You know, and we should. I mean, it's always difficult to raise rates. But, you know, and I think there was good reason for people to ask, well, what did we base it on? And I think it is important that we did the homework to show that we're well within the target area and, in fact, somewhat beneath what we could charge. And so, you know, even if you were to just continue with the policy of, you know, a 5% discount on, or whatever it equals to, and maintain that as a policy going forward, it was certainly, I think, keeping with it the spirit of, I think, what we're trying to do here, which is to be open and fully, you know, analysis supported charging of you know, indirect and direct expense, so that you know, enterprise funds are in fact paying their fair share of the global expense of operating the community.
Council?
Question. Like, there were a lot of zeros on this chart. Like the vehicle fuel for the harbor and the rink are at zero, but obviously they use fuel for the boats and they use fuel for the Zamboni. Are you including them in the indirect charges?
No, I received nothing from the DPW on fuel use by the harbor or the rink, so.
The rink
assuming
uses
they
propane.
pays it.
We don't provide fuel for their vessels, but I'm not sure how.
They buy it
How
on their
do they
budget.
get
They buy it on
They buy it on their budget,
They buy it out of the... okay.
They go to the place where they can fuel up.
on the water.
Yeah, and it's very careful how they have to fuel up.
And that goes right out of their fund direct,
Yeah.
they pay that bill.
So,
Health insurance for recreation and harbor. I know we have 4 employees or more in the recreation department. None of them...
none of them are taking it,
Taking it.
yeah, I know, surprised me as well.
It's amazing.
Any other questions on the night? Yes. Council.
Spouses have
So,
private insurance.
something caught me at the end. Harbor, rink, and recreation, you're not charging them these fees? Did I
Well, we are
catch that, or did I
charging
miss it?
harbor water expense now, so that's a minor.
Harbor is
minor-
paying their water
yeah, very
expense.
minor expense.
So that'll change.
But that'll be on their line item.
Yes, so that's coming out of their expense, and what's
Right.
metered, is that correct?
Yeah, the pier and the building are needed. It's not insignificant either. The pier,
But they
the
have,
facility uses a bit of water.
but they have revenue.
Yeah, and so they're paying for that, whereas in the past they didn't, and now they are,
Do they have revenue?
yeah.
Okay, any further questions
Yeah,
on the
no,
agreement?
no. So I'm still not sure on this recreation, their allocation, what percentage of their allocation are we charging them?
We're not charging them.
So that's 63, so whatever their budget is, there's an extra 63 Gs we're putting into it.
So that was when I mentioned that it's an issue that
I
we
heard
should
you mention
discuss.
it.
Well, I think it's something that we need to discuss as part of the fiscal year 16 budget process, and I don't know what the answer is. I'd want to get with the finance committee, the citizens group as well, and kind of brainstorm some of the options there.
That's really,
Clearly, there was a period of time when both recreation and rink were under a considerable budgetary stress. And the town saw fit, even in the case of, recreation, to supplement that budget. And so, we're trying to get some stability in those departments that's clearly, on their own, so they can survive on their own. And, before we start charging back, we want to make sure that they can pay their bills and be held to account to their revenues, and we see that recurring revenue is solid, such that we can look in the future to allocating whatever expense needs to be allocated back. But, we don't want to hit them all hard at once. We recognize that this is in fact what you think it is, Counselor. It's a supplement to those departments.
so just on my accounting principle, I say you throw the balance over there, only because we're gonna make up the money no matter what. We're not gonna say no, but if we have the real line expense on their budget, then you tighten up, you look at your purse strings a little bit differently. When you know what's in the background, say, okay, we'll get to that, but when it hits the line, it just, just a different way of looking at the charge. It's the same way I look at the capital charge, I take the same approach to it. Get hit hard up front, rejoice later, and, just different,
I think there's merit in taking the position that you use the model, you charge them what is identified here, and then you can still give them a transfer. You can make up the difference, but being consistent with how you treat the enterprise funds and allocate your costs, I think is a good standard to have. And then if you want to supplement the water, the sewer, any of the other enterprise funds, X number of dollars to line it up with where they were at, I think that's not a, I think that's a reasonable approach to take.
reasonable.
Yeah, no, I do. I think you're being consistent with your accounting and with your cost data. And then you're making decisions as the appropriating body, as to how you want to subsidize the enterprise funds.
Council Boyard.
This is really off of this, but just something that a couple of citizens have asked me that I talked to you about, Jim, was the beach and the water usage by the DCR. And you would, just to clarify, because it's on TV, is that's a metered thing that's being paid for by DCR, the water usage at the beach that was done, just because people were concerned. People
were rightfully concerned, and early on in the project, we did have an issue there that we corrected. I had Steve go out and, Steve, you want to say anything about this?
Yeah, early on in the project, there was an understanding that they weren't going to be charged water. It wasn't very far into the project. A month or two after they really started using the water for their street sweeping and things of that nature, a hydrant meter is actually still, we're still awaiting a hydrant meter that they purchased on their own. We're logging their fill-ups right now. We know the capacity of the tank. It's logged. They are receiving bills, so.
No, I just wanted to make the public aware that it was being addressed. That was really my major point.
Thank you.
That up.
Any further on the finance, the Abraham report?
I would like to say one thing.
Yeah.
That this really checks a box off that has been a nagging issue for this community for a long,
Yes,
long
it does.
time. Thank you, Tim, for your leadership on getting this done. Thank you to the consultant and the council for your patience while this was analyzed. This is a tricky proposition, and getting it right, I think, was very important for us, so we can rely on a report that's verified. I'm just thrilled that we can just, go forward on a solid basis in budgeting now, based on, real evidence of and correct, analysis of how the costs are being allocated. So thank you.
It's significant from an outside source that it's clear that this is what's done, and it's not, well, who said this and who said that.
Just one other element.
Yes, Council.
Would you not using the figures that they came up with on a percentage basis, if there was a requisite rise in, say, health insurance, you would then add that on and charge the fund back that fee? If there was an inordinate expense, because this is a percentage, X percent, but that percent would deviate based on any alteration of those base
Health
numbers.
insurance is, we're charging it direct, so.
Right.
that would be charged based on actual cost.
Okay, any further questions? Mr. McKenna?
Yes, I just want to report that I am in discussions with the library trustees regarding the soon-to-be and unfortunate vacancy. Peter is moving on. I hate to lose Peter, but,
I certainly do.
you know, it's, we've got big shoes to fill there, and we're in the process of discussing that with the trustees, an interim measure, while we do a new search. There was MCAD training that was held today for all department managers and senior staff, and it went very well and was well attended. So we had MCAD out to the community and spent 4 hours with the staff conducting that training, and it went very well. And I just finally want to report that the Arbors at the Winthrop Hospital is receiving their full occupancy permit tomorrow.
That's very good.
So
Thank you.
congratulations to
Excellent.
them.
Good job on helping work through those little final details, crises.
And although we, it was very brief on the library director position, I think we do need to thank Peter for his short time, which was longer. Now resident of Winthrop, if we accomplished anything with getting him here.
Yeah.
And he's really brought a new light to bring the library to the 21st century. For that, I want to wish him luck.
If I can just go back to, are you finished?
Done.
If I can just go back to the Arbors for a minute, I wanted to thank John Barrett and Al Legee and also the planning board for all of the hoops that they had to jump through and all the changes that they had to make and the considerations that they had to make, and to see that the occupancy permit is finally being issued is a big sigh of relief for a lot of people who had expected to be in there already. If anybody has not walked through that building, it looks nice on the outside, but it's gorgeous on the inside. It's like a luxury hotel, and it's a proud accomplishment for the town of Winthrop to have that facility there. If you haven't had the opportunity, they're there all the time. Just walk in the old emergency room door. They're happy to give you a tour, and they will also show you who's living where. This is Mr. So-and-so, this is Mrs. So-and-so. It's really interesting. So kudos to our inspectional services and to our planning board for all of their efforts. Moving on to school department update. There hasn't been a school committee meeting since our last meeting, but just a couple of brief comments. The football team did finish their season with the win on Thanksgiving Day, and they are the NEC champs. The cheerleaders headed for the Nationals at Myrtle Beach next week, I think they're leaving. The Drama Club is putting on It's a Wonderful Life this Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the high school auditorium. And the elementary school is having a concert on the 18th. I had the privilege and the pleasure of attending the Life Skills Thanksgiving dinner the other day. Councilor Boyajian was there, Mrs. Boyajian's class. It's always a great event. The food was good. The kids are tremendous. It's fabulous to watch the interaction between the mentors and the students, and just the whole program's phenomenal. So, as you know, I'm always hot on that one. I really like that program, and it was great. And I appreciate the efforts of the teachers and the kids in putting that together. Moving on to old business. Council Vice President Del Bento.
Okay, I'm going to take these in the order that I have them PDF, so they bounce around a little. Coming from the Finance Committee, move the Town Council transfer $37,000 from Capital Stabilization Fund 964 to the Fund Window Replacement Program at the Police Department to take any action relative thereto.
Each one of these 964 funds requires 6 votes. I'll take a voice vote. If there's any opposition, then we'll go to a roll call. So on Councilor Del Bento's motion requiring no second coming from committee, is there any discussion on the motion? If not, on a voice vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
Moving from committee, the Finance Committee moved that the Town Council transfer $25,000 from Capital Stabilization Fund 964 to fund the Town Record Scanning Project to take any action relative thereto.
No second required from coming from committee. Is there any discussion on the motion? Again, we'll do We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Counsel?
The next is I move that the town council transfer $3,000 from free cash to fund a vault storage container for the town clerk's office to take any action relative thereto.
Coming from committee, no second required. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
From Finance Committee, move that the town council transfer $43,000 from free cash to fund the town hall, records room construction, and other building improvements, carpet, paint, furniture, or take any action relative thereto.
Coming from committee, no second required. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not. All those in favor say aye. Yes, Counsel?
I had one
Sorry.
question. On that 43,000, that's different from the 10,500 for the town hall equipment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's totally different, okay.
Any further discussion or question? Not. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
There is a motion that came from committee that's being withdrawn for $60,000 from capital stabilization fund for restoration of the town hall cupola. That is being withdrawn at this time.
But we're going to keep it in mind. Okay, go
The
ahead.
next motion is, I'm going to read the motion, then offer an amendment to it. From committee, move that the town council transfer $80,000 from capital stabilization fund 964 to fund two new DPW W3 utility trucks to take any other action relative thereto. And at this time, I'd like to offer an amendment to change the value to $40,000 and change to fund two trucks to fund one truck.
Is that motion from committee, or do you need an amendment?
It did come from committee, but I think we need an amendment.
Okay, amendment by Council Vice President to amend as he said it, seconded by Council Boncory. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment passes. Now on the main motion as amended. All those, any discussion? Not. All those in favor say aye.
Well, I had
Oh,
one
yeah.
question. According to the director, it's going to take 16 weeks to get these vehicles. So if you're putting this out that you're going to revisit it in the spring, then it's probably going to take even more
16
time
weeks,
before
yeah.
anything comes in. Shouldn't these be ordered sooner rather than later? I mean,
think-
do we need this equipment in order to continue the progress that we've been making so far? Is this gonna set us back a little bit? I mean, I don't know.
What's the
Mr.
likelihood?
McKenna, would you comment on that?
Well, my feeling on this is that, we right now are getting strong signals from the state that we should expect some adjustment in revenue. And we have to think about that first before we think about something that may or may not happen in the spring. I do support Steve's need for new equipment. I think every single year we have acknowledged and supported some vehicle acquisition. I want to keep consistent with that support. And so we're acknowledging that we'll get one now, show our support for that now, and then when the time comes and we have some headroom to support another vehicle, we will do so. Everything that we have asked for in our budget and couldn't fund has come back around to be supported. And we're making that commitment to these items. So I don't say this and hope that, or suggest that we will be insincere in our support. We mean that we will support this and we'll ask for it to be funded. We just need to make sure that this town has the financial capacity to address any identified cuts that come to us in January. And we need to make some decisions about where that money comes from. And so, I'm reluctant to offer any adjustments right now, but we have to. But keep our commitment where it needs to be relative to, supporting the vehicle replacement when we can afford to do so.
Any further?
Council President?
Yeah, Council President.
With respect to what you just said in terms of 9C cuts, make it a little more clear to me, that was coming from the Capital Stabilization Fund. I mean, the Capital Assets Committee did meet, and we agreed that this was a need for the DPW. It's coming from a capital stabilization fund. How would a 9C cut affect coming from that fund?
Well, understanding that we can't even accomplish the acquisition of this for 16 weeks, and knowing that in 4 weeks, we're gonna see, some sort of cut that we estimate to be a magnitude of 100,000. So, we pick and choose from the list of needs what can reasonably be delayed and allow us that funding headroom to address the cut.
But understood, but if we needed that money from, it's coming from a capital stabilization. We wouldn't be able to withdraw from the capital stabilization fund if we had a need for an operational budget somewhere else.
I think that the discussion last night was to identify the things that could be delayed versus the things that should go forward as front burner identified needs. And the funding is the funds came from free cash and went into capital stabilization. We can reroute that money if we need to go back to available funds to allocate for the need for the cut.
Vice President Dobon.
And that was the discussion, same with the cupola. Let's take a look, let's sit until February and see where things happen. I mean, if we get through the next 6 to 8 weeks with relatively warm weather, we're gonna be okay with our energy. These purchases can happen with another mechanism down the road, provided I don't know if we all remember the 9C cuts we went through last time where we got hit on grants. We had already expended the money. We didn't get reimbursed for it from the state. So we're just trying to hedge our bets a little bit in case, God forbid, we do end up in that situation. We'll have enough in reserve to cover what we've already expended. And the intent is the vehicle, this purchase. There's also another one that I have a soft spot for, which is an assault truck. That are going to be needed to come out of capital, whether it's direct capital costs and capital stabilization in the future. But we need to see in the next 6 to 8 weeks what happens, and then we can get a much better grip on how we can go forward with all these things.
So is it 4 weeks and we'll find out what the cuts, or is it the 6 to 8? So is it reasonable that we revisit, especially like the truck, like Council Callow was saying, we don't want to shortchange the DPW to, is it reasonable after we find out what the cut is?
We don't want to shortchange anyone.
No, you know what I mean, though.
Yeah, but
This would be more of a priority, I would think.
I think if you look at the buckets as static, then I think, sure, this is money that's in capital, and it would take an active, a vote of the council to relieve the capital fund of a certain amount, so that we could move it over to make it available for
But if we find out that
expense. And that would be an act of the council to do that upon the recommendation. But, I think that the intent here, from the finance committee standpoint, was to exercise some patience relative to what needs to be spent now, what do we have committed in terms of projects, what needs to move forward quickly, what are we doing in the winter to get those projects underway, and what can we reasonably hold off on doing? And how does that relieve the pressure on the budget such that we could make a cut and it not be felt, in a draconian way? And I think that was a reasonable proposition. If we're stuck in the idea that capital funds are sacrosanct just for capital purchases, then that's going to be a challenge.
No, I guess my question was, if we're going to know what the damage is going to be from the 9C cuts in 4 weeks, I would propose we revisit getting a second truck if it's reasonable after we know what the damage is. If you feel like the
Yeah,
I think that's the plan.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if we were just putting it off till after the spring, because I want to do it as soon as possible. for the truck.
We'll get you in a second, Council.
And that was the intent. These items aren't going away. We know we need them. It's just, last year we got crushed with a very cold winter. I think it cost about $90,000 over on our energy cost because of the cold. Well, it's just a matter of hedging our bets. for example, if this truck gets delivered in the beginning of April, I don't want to say it's kind of between season, but if we can wait that until June for it to come in, and we'll wait till February to allocate the money, then we can be safe that we've got through a piece of the winter on our energy expense, see what that is, see what our snow and ice budget's at, and see what the 9C cuts are at. We're being very conservative. We're hedging our bets. We had some more available funding that we're not going to touch at all, or even think it's even there, until we see what our budget is, February, March, and see where we are, and how the next few months go.
Council Mayo.
I have to give Councilor Varone genius way to present that. That was actually sweet. I give you credit for coming up with that one, and it actually made me rethink it, because I wanted to get the truck, and I actually was going to state that we should have, if we use one of your trucks and it breaks down and we have a huge capital expense on the truck, we should, you got a $10,000 transmission, we'd be better off buying the truck. But in light of the fact the truck is not going to come in till April, if it takes that long a period of time, judgment on it at this particular point in time is only an expenditure, and it's sort of a moot point if we're not going to get the value. You're buying it for the winter, I'm guessing.
That's, a big part of the truck is the winter. Absolutely, the truck's used year round, as we know.
But phrasing it that way, of it coming out of capital, is that is genius. I'll give you credit for that. I'm not going to support it, but I'll give you, I sat here and I go, wow, that's amazing. Good thinking.
On the motion as amended, is there any further comment? The motion as amended reads that the town council transfer $40,000 from capital stabilization fund 964 to fund one new DPW W3 utility truck. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
What was that?
8-1. Council Veronica, is
What?
that
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
And I
that.
really believe they need that
I'm
truck.
sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But,
I
you know,
didn't hear
at
you.
our last meeting on the 18th, we transferred $977,000 from free cash to the state.
I understand that, but
Okay,
I'm an inherent,
We can take it back.
The discussion on that motion is over. The motion has passed 8-1.
Council President, I think you weren't quite sure that what we were voting on, I think?
No, I didn't even actually realize that.
Do we, if the council wants to re-vote, we will?
Oh.
And I will take it as a roll call. The motion that we're voting on is what I read, that the town council will back one page. The town council transfer
You can leave
$40,000.
it the way it is. I didn't realize it, but you can leave it the way it is.
You're okay?
Yeah.
Is the council satisfied with the vote the way we did it?
Yeah.
Okay. Council Vice President Del.
There is a motion to transfer $5,000 from free cash to fund the overlay enclosure between high school, gym, and rink. That motion is being withdrawn.
Can I just ask, on the withdrawal, is that work going to be done? Funding coming from somewhere else?
It's a different,
It's not necessary.
it's not
Okay.
necessary.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Motion that from the Finance Committee, the Town Council transfer $42,500 from Capital Stabilization Fund 964 from playground equipment at Coffin Playground. I'll take any action relative thereto.
Coming out of committee, there's no need for a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Council?
And from committee, I move the Town Council to transfer $15,000 from free cash to fund the E.B. Newton East elevation roofing and masonry repairs, and take any action relative thereto.
Coming from committee, there's no need for a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Is that something that has to be done right now? Is
Yes.
that- Okay.
It does. It's an emergency.
Hearing no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. 63.
Yeah, no, there's a note. And from committee, move that the Town Council transfer $6,300 from free cash to fund the installation of emergency backup batteries at Town Hall, and take any action relative thereto.
Coming from committee, no need for a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
Move that the Town Council transfer $10,500 from free cash to fund disaster recovery equipment software for the town computers, or take any action relative thereto.
coming from committee. There's no need for a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Council?
From committee, move that the town council transfer $3,860 for free cash to fund 20 new voting booths. And take any action relative thereto.
Coming from committee, no need for a second. Excuse me. Any discussion? Not all those, excuse me, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Did I get them all?
You got it.
Okay.
Postponed from our last meeting was the fiscal 16 budget, council budget goals to go to the town manager. They're included in the November 18th packet, and we included them again this time because there was a request to exercise the right to move it to the next meeting. I can read the council goals, but if the council would rather, if there's no objection, we will move them to the town manager and post them on the website. Could I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Council Lettieri, seconded by Council Boyajin to waive the reading and to move the goals directly to the town manager. And I'll ask the town manager, would you post them on the website?
Yes.
And I will forward them to the Citizens Finance Commission.
Did we vote?
Do you have to vote on it?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. I just ask, if there is no more old business, we'll move on to new business. Council committees for 2015. I would ask anybody who has a request for committee change to let me know before the next council meeting, within the next 2 weeks. I will send you out a reminder. If I'm satisfied with the committees the way they are, unless somebody would like a change, request a change, let me know and I will consider that change for the 2015 year. Sale of town land is going to be an executive session. We'll come back after executive session to look at that. We do have a motion that the town council review the rules and procedures of the Winthrop Town Council and make appropriate revisions, if any, or take any other action relative thereto. I'd like to have a motion to refer this to rules, to review our rules. Motion by Councilor Lettieri, seconded by Council Vice President Del Vento. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Veterans Agent Supplementary Budget. From the town manager, I move the town council transfer $80,000 from free cash to the Veterans Agent Contract Services account, number 0154352-544350, to supplement veterans benefit payments or take any other action relative thereto. Could I have a motion?
Move to refer to committee.
Motion by Councilor Del Vento to refer to committee,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Boyajin,
To finance.
to Finance Committee,
Yes,
right?
sorry.
Any discussion on the motion to refer? Yes, Paul?
Is there any particular need to do that right away?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would ask a reconsideration of referring to finance. then.
Well, we haven't actually taken a vote to refer it.
Okay.
But we do need to have a public hearing before we do it, don't we?
We need, a referral is fine. I don't want to give you the impression that we need it immediately.
Okay.
But yes, it's something that we need to do in due course.
And we need to have a public hearing before we do
Yes.
it, correct?
Yes.
So Denise, could you advertise a public hearing for the next meeting,
16th,
the
yeah.
16th?
Mhm.
And we do have a motion to refer.
It has to go because
Is
it's
it-
above the 25.
It's above the 20, right. So motion was by Councilor Lettieri, seconded by Vice President Del Vento. All those in favor, any discussion on the referral?
You think it's reasonable?
I think in committee, there'll be a very full discussion about what the need is for.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of referring to the Finance Committee say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. The litigation settlement, we will come back after executive session and vote that. The town manager has put in a request that was not on the did not come in before 1 o'clock on Thursday, and therefore was not on the on the agenda. The motion is that he would like the town council to approve the transfer of $3,500 from town council reserve 0111052-576100 to the town manager's conference and training line 0112552-576050 for the purpose of funding the employee recognition program for the calendar year 2014. I'd like to have a motion to waive Rule 2B so that we can discuss this tonight. Could I have a motion to waive Rule 2B? Motion by Council Vice President Del Vento, seconded by Council Boyajin. All those in favor of waiving Rule 2B, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
8-1.
I could have answered for that.
I thought you were going to make some motion. Okay, now the motion. That the town council will vote to approve, as I read before. Do I have a motion for that?
Motion.
Motion by Vice President Devento, seconded by Council Boyajin.
We're not gonna
Discussion.
send this- We're not gonna send this to committee, to the finance
Is
committee?
there discussion right now?
Oh, no, we thought the way it's worded, I think you were making a motion to approve it.
We can, well, either way, you can make the amendment to refer it, or we can approve it. It's open, the motion is here, it's open for discussion, either to refer it or to vote it.
I'd like to know what the employee
Yeah.
recognition
Yeah, me
program
too.
is.
Okay.
And is it, you need it right now, or you need it for next year's?
2000.
I was going to, since it is a matter of some sensitivity, I was going to save it for under the contract negotiation language of executive session.
Okay, so we'll postpone until after.
Discuss it with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Can we vote when we come out?
Yes, and you can.
Okay,
vote.
so we'll postpone this till after the executive session. Okay, public comment.
Yes.
Yes,
I have a quick
Council.
comment. So, I was reading something today, and I came across something called KIPP, K-I-P-P, which is, I don't know if anybody's heard about it before, but it's a school program that's in X amount of communities. And, you know, the school has moved forward with Khan Academy this year at a higher level. And they have recently, I think through a discussion we had a couple of weeks ago, they ended up buying some new computers. And both of those elements were funded because they were good ideas. And I ran across this KIPP Academy, and I went on their website today, and I suggest everybody does, because there's a whole series of videos, and there's a whole series of things, and I would like to start the seed that we would have the school committee and the school department start to look into the potential of building our own private KIPP Academy in town. And you'll read about it, and you'll see what the situation is. And I always like to come up with a funding scheme, because no one goes far, and there have to be schemes. But if we charged admission to it, and then gave scholarships through our rather substantial scholarship fund, and if the people who gave that could be convinced of the excellence of this type of program, I think they may go for it. And I was very, very impressed with what I saw. This is a program working in inter-school kids, but it's built on some rather unique educational models, and I think it's worth looking at if you go to their website. And I'm going to bring it up at the school committee, and I certainly hope that they're going to look at this as a serious thing for building education. And it's one way of adding programming into the community that adds an enhancement like the iPads and like the Khan Academy that can be done inside the budget framework. And I was very impressed with it, and I hope people that have some curiosity in education will go to that website and take a look at it and familiarize yourself.
Is that
Council
KIPP
Vice
or Mass?
President Del Vento?
With all due respect, I'm not going to, don't mean to debate this, but if I'm correct, KIPP is a charter school.
You know-
Is what they run. They're,
You know, Nick,
No,
let me interrupt you right there. I don't care what they run. What they run is results, and what we're looking for is ways to incorporate good educational models into our system. And that means we have to sometimes go beyond the norm, and we have to look at different things, and we have to move forward on them.
It actually
Okay,
looks like,
this not being an item on the agenda, if we want to discuss this further, I would suggest it go on the agenda for the next meeting. Moving on. Executive session.
I did want to, if it's still,
On public comment? Sorry.
no, just about, just since we're throwing things out there with the parks and what a great job things have done, I went to the Thanksgiving game, which was great, and my nephew plays for Revere, so I went over to the Revere side and I think that we really do need to think about Miller Field, because it was kind of embarrassing, I guess, that, walking through these, 2 feet of water and everything else over there, that it was just flooded, and so it is something that we need to kind of think about. I know we can't, not right now, but has to be on the list of things that we really should think about to fund for is doing Miller Field, that's all.
Thank you. Anything else under public comment? Council?
So I make a motion under Rule 7B3 to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of our body.
Sure. Could I just amend that to say we're going to executive session to discuss the sale of land negotiation and past executive session minutes and update the contract negotiations, sale of town land, and the litigation settlement. And given that discussion of these matters in open session could have a detrimental effect on any one of those, the contract negotiation, litigation settlement, the confidential matters, and the past executive session, sale of town land.
So that would be 3 and 7B6.
Okay.
6 is the sell of land.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, number 6, you're right. 3 and 6, you're right. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Councilor Lettieri. Will we have a roll call, please?
Council Calla,
Yes.
Council Sanford,
Yes.
Council Moncory,
Yes.
Council Barone,
Yes.
Council Terry,
Yes.
Council Boyajin,
Yes.
Council Mayo,
Yes.
Vice President Del Vento,
Yes.
President Gill.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're into executive session at this point. We'll have to clear the hall.
Hey, can you take a 5-minute?
You may. Okay, returning to executive session, back to new business. The item of the sale of town land, we are going to ask the town manager to research that and come up with a proposal for us at a future meeting. The motion for the Veterans Agent Supplementary Budget, we postponed to the next meeting with a public hearing. The litigation settlement, referred to finance and for a public hearing. The litigation settlement motion. Okay, wait just a minute.
You need a copy of that?
The town council transfer $12,500 from free cash to fund the legal settlement of the Goldstein case or take any other action relative thereto. Could I have a motion?
Motion, make a motion.
Motion's been made and seconded
Second.
to move the $12,500. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
I
We
abstained
discussed-
from voting on that,
On which one?
on the Goldstein thing.
Okay, so there was an abstention, not a no?
It was an abstention.
The motion for the town manager to transfer $3,500 to the employee recognition program.
I'll make the motion.
We had a motion to waive Rule 2B so that we could do that tonight. I believe we already waived Rule 2B.
We did.
Yes.
Okay, and now we have a motion from Vice President Del Vento to
Second.
transfer $3,500 from council reserve to the town manager's account for the employee recognition program. Any discussion on the motion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. minutes of past executive session.
I'm gonna have to abstain also from the Goldstein settlement.
Okay, yep.
Today's public
You'll have to come to our
I would like to-
December 11th holiday party to find out.
We have a series of minutes that were approved and not released, and I'd like to have a motion that we release the executive session minutes from February 18th, March 4th, March 11th, March 17th, April 30th, May 23rd, June 17th. Could I have a motion? Motion by Council Lettieri, seconded by
Second.
Council Boyajin. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Minutes of September 2nd of the executive session. Could I have a motion for approve and to release?
Motion.
Motion by Vice President Davento, seconded by Council Sanford. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. I believe that is the extent of business before us this evening.
November 18th executive session.
Pardon me?
November 18th executive session.
We did that
We
earlier.
already did-
We did it right at the beginning,
Oh,
Of
right,
the
okay,
meeting?
I'm sorry, yep. Sorry.
okay? If there is no further business, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second, please.
I need the motion.
Motion.
Motion by Council Lettieri, seconded by Council Sanford. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.